Hey y'all, what's going on? It's Athena Amoeba, your friend in exploring the power of your mind, the power that you can use to create your own universe. In today's video, we are delving deep into chapter 4 of Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. You know I love this book. You know this book is a game changer, so amazing. So I'm really happy to be able to take you all through the amazing and life-changing content of this book. Now, chapter 4 is all about our limiting beliefs, how we can identify them and how we can change them to empowering beliefs so that we can accomplish the things we want to accomplish and be the people that we want to be. I love this chapter. I think it's one of the most influential chapters, and I'm really excited to get into this content, so let's go. So the first important note of this chapter is that so often we're seduced into believing that the events of our lives and our environments shape who we are, and that they control our lives. No greater lie has ever been told. It's not the events of our lives that shape us, but our beliefs about what those events mean. That's really what shapes our lives. How do we know this is true? Well, throughout this chapter, Tony Robbins gives countless examples of people who were in the exact same situation, but had two totally different outcomes in their lives. Now, when we could say exact same situation, he took an example of two brothers who grew up in the same household, and one struggled for his whole life with drugs and alcohol and eventually was incarcerated for attempted murder. The other brother, however, grew up to have a job that he loved, a wonderful family, he was very loving, he was really happy with his life. And when they were both asked, why do you think your life turned out this way? Both of them said, well, with a father like mine, how could I have turned out any other way? Now, their father himself was dealing with drugs and alcohol and had a lot of issues. So the point is, though, that they grew up in the exact same environment, same exact household, almost same exact experiences, and turned out completely different. So again, it's not about the events of our lives. It's not about our environment, but it's about the meanings that we associate to them. Now, these meanings stem from our subconscious beliefs. And that's what we're going to get into, because it's our beliefs that can hold us back. And so if we can change those beliefs, we can give ourselves the fuel we need to make the changes we want to make, to live the lives we want to live. So what are our beliefs designed for? Our beliefs are the guide that we have that will tell us what will lead to pain and what will lead to pleasure in our lives. Our beliefs help us make decisions and shape our behavior. Now, if you haven't watched the video on pain and pleasure, or the review of chapter 3 from Awaken the Giant Within, go back and watch that, because that's talking about pain and pleasure and how that shapes everything that we do in our lives. Now we're getting into the beliefs that help us determine what will bring us pain and what will bring us pleasure. So if you haven't watched that video yet, definitely do so. The link is in the description below. So yes, our beliefs are the guide that we use to determine if something will bring us pain or something will bring us pleasure. When something happens in our lives, our brain asks us two questions. The first question is, will this lead to pain or pleasure? And the second question is, what must I do to avoid pain and to gain pleasure in this situation? The answer to these two questions that our brains come up with is rooted in the beliefs that already exist in our subconscious mind. So what are beliefs and how do we develop them? How do we develop the guide that helps us make our decisions based off of pleasure and pain? Well, beliefs are just practiced thoughts. They are nothing more than generalizations. They're generalizations that we've made based on experiences and observation. Now, generalizations can be useful and can help us function in the world, such as, generally, we know how to open a door because of past experiences. We know how to drive based on past experiences. And we know how to use something like a cell phone. In these instances, generalizations are useful because they help us put things into patterns and help us function. Unfortunately, generalizations in more complex areas of our lives can oversimplify things and then serve as limiting beliefs. So for example, maybe you fail to follow through on various endeavors several times in your life. And based on that, you developed a belief that you're incompetent, that you're worthless, that you can't do anything, that you'll never follow through. Once you believe this, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll start to ask yourself, why bother? Why bother trying? Why bother doing anything? I know I'm not going to do it anyway. I know I'm going to give up. I know I'm not going to follow through. And then we hold ourselves back from ever striving for anything again. This is how beliefs become limitations. We can develop beliefs that limit our future decisions about what we are capable of. Now, going unchecked, this is a disaster. So many of us can be stifled completely by limiting beliefs. We enclose ourselves in a box, in a cage built of limiting beliefs. The challenge is that most of us don't consciously decide what we will believe. Often our beliefs are based off of misrepresentations of past experiences. And once we adopt a belief, we forget that it's only a perspective, only an interpretation of a past experience. We can treat beliefs like they're realities when they are just perceptions, when they're just generalizations of past experiences, but that doesn't mean that they have to determine your future. Now, all of the actions, all of the decisions we make now are results of our beliefs. If you want to create long-term and consistent changes in your behavior, then you must change the beliefs that are holding you back. Beliefs have the power to create, and they have the power to destroy. They have the power to create our self-esteem, to create wonderful experiences in our lives, and they have the power to destroy us. Destroy any chance we have of believing in ourselves. Destroy our chances of connecting with people. Our subconscious beliefs make such a huge difference. Thankfully, we all have the capacity to create meanings that empower us. So many of us never stop to recognize it. But we all have the power to change our limiting beliefs and to create empowering ones. Our negative and limiting beliefs can destroy us from the inside because it stops us from growing, it stops us from moving forward, it stops us from trying new things, stops us from living, stops us from feeling fulfilled. Our limiting beliefs or negative beliefs are the number one cause of unhappiness, are the number one cause of people living unfulfilled lives. Our beliefs not only affect our thoughts and emotions, but our bodies and behaviors as well. Now, in this chapter, Tony Robbins talks about how people's physicality can actually change. They've even documented cases as extreme as eye color changing and marks on the skin appearing or reappearing based upon who that person believed themselves to be. Now, these are extreme cases. Not everybody has the power to change the color of their eyes on a whim or make marks appear on their body, but this is the intense power of our minds. Most of us don't reach that level of certainty to change in an instant who we are or who we believe ourselves to be with that much certainty. But all of us have the capacity to develop enough certainty about who we are that it actually does affect our physical bodies, not just our emotions and thoughts. So again, our beliefs are huge. They literally shape every aspect of who we are. Now, our beliefs shape all the interactions that we have in our lives. We all develop global beliefs. Now, these are beliefs that we hold about everything and anything. These are the beliefs that we have about people, about work, about money, about life itself. These are the is, am, are statements when you can say money is, people are, I am. These are these general global beliefs that we can develop that actually shape our lives and shape our experiences. For example, if you complete the sentence with people are trash, you're probably going to have a totally different experience than someone who says people are wonderful. And so these subconscious beliefs really do shape the decisions we make. They shape all of our experiences because they're the foundation from which we're approaching the world and the foundation from which we're living our lives. They do make a huge difference. The good news is, again, that we have the power to change our beliefs consciously. And it takes practice, but it definitely can be done. Even making a change to one belief can have an impact on our entire life. So to direct our lives, to have the outcomes that we want to have in our lives, to achieve the goals that we want to accomplish, we have to take control over our beliefs. So another way to break down what a belief is that it is nothing more than a feeling of certainty. When you believe something, you're certain about it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a universal truth. It just means that you feel certain about it. That's it. Just a feeling of certainty. So when we say, I believe I'm intelligent, we're saying, I am certain, I feel certain that I'm an intelligent person. And this allows us to produce intelligent results. Our lack of belief in ourselves or a lack of certainty in ourselves causes us to not be able to use our full capacity. So it's not that if you believe you're intelligent that you actually are more intelligent. It just means that you will use more of your capacity. You will try harder. You will use resources better than someone who doesn't believe that they're intelligent, because why try? Why bother? Why put in that effort? They don't believe they're intelligent anyway. Our beliefs shape so much. Now, again, this might be getting a little bit into the weeds, but if somebody believes that being intelligent means that they have all the answers, then that's also going to negatively impact them, maybe as much as not believing they're intelligent. As opposed to thinking, I'm intelligent, I have the capacity to figure things out. I have the capacity to solve problems. I have the capacity to work with others to make changes. If instead we think being intelligent means we know everything, we have all the answers, then that's probably going to have a negative result as well. So again, everything is just about the meaning that you attach to it. But in general, if we believe that we're intelligent, we will act as if we're intelligent. If we believe that we're not intelligent, we will act as if we're not intelligent. Our subconscious thoughts really do shape so much of our lives, so much of our actions, and so much of what we do without us even realizing it. So often we have so much more capacity than we believe ourselves to have. When we believe positive things about ourselves, it helps us to have positive outcomes in our lives. And when we think negative things about ourselves, it holds us back. It really does. So a simple way of understanding a belief is to break it down to its simple building block, which is an idea. A belief is an idea that we have certainty about. We are certain about this idea. Now, we have lots of ideas floating through our minds, but not all of them are beliefs. So let's take this example from the book. Let's take the idea that you're sexy. Stop for a second and say to yourself, I'm sexy. Now, whether that's an idea or a belief will depend upon how you feel about it. How much certainty do you have that this phrase is true for you? If you think, well, I'm not really sexy, or if you feel kind of funny about saying it, what you're really saying is, I don't feel very certain that I'm sexy. So it's not a belief for you. You don't believe that. Now, if you have no problem saying that, then it's definitely a belief for you. More than an idea, but definitely a belief. So good for you. So the question is, how do we turn an idea into a belief? So there's a great metaphor in this book which blew my mind the first time I read this chapter, because it really just put a wonderful visual to what a belief is and why we don't believe the things we wish we believed sometimes. Like, why don't we actually believe the wonderful things we want to believe about ourselves or other people? Most of the time, I'd say about ourselves though. We tend to be really hard on ourselves, so if there's something positive that you've been wanting to believe about yourself, but just actually don't, or haven't been able to get yourself to believe it, then we're about to get into why. Now again, this is so mind-blowing for me the first time I read it, so I'm excited to share this. Okay, so you can think of an idea as being like a tabletop. So you can think of an idea as being a tabletop with no legs. So it's just a tabletop lying flat on the ground. There's no legs for it to stand on. Belief, on the other hand, has legs. If you really believe something, how do you know it's true? How do you feel certain about it? Well, you have some references to support that idea, and the references are the legs of the table, keeping the idea up, holding the idea up. Without any references, our ideas never become beliefs, and we can't ever feel certain about it. So like in this example from the book, the idea is I'm sexy, and the references are the legs. So the references are, I drive a hot car, I look good in jeans, I work out every day, and my lover tells me I'm sexy. So these are the references that are upholding this idea from this example in the book. Now this can work for anything. What is something that you believe? Why do you believe it? What are the references that you have? Or what's something you don't believe? That means that you're lacking references, or it means that you have more references to uphold an opposing idea. And this is what shapes our beliefs. Nothing more, nothing less than that. Once we understand this metaphor, we can begin to see how our beliefs are formed. And this also helps us learn how we can change our beliefs. It's also important to note that we can develop beliefs about anything and everything. All we need are enough legs, enough references. It's true that if you've had enough bad experiences with people in your life, Or that if you know enough people who've had bad experiences with other people, that you could definitely develop a limiting belief that says, people are horrible and given half a chance they will take advantage of you. Maybe you don't want to believe this and this belief is really disempowering, but if you have enough evidence, if you have enough references to support this idea, it can easily become a belief. However, the opposite is also true. I'm sure everyone has had positive experiences that when we focus on those and use them as references, we can support the idea that people are generally good and want to help and turn that into a belief. So the question is, which is true? The answer is, it doesn't matter which is true. What matters is which belief is most empowering and which belief is going to help you accomplish more in your life. Which belief is going to help you be the person you want to be? Which belief is going to help you make the changes you want to make in your life and accomplish the goals you want to accomplish? Which belief is going to hold you back and which belief is going to propel you forward? That's actually what matters more. Now, all of us can find at least one other person to back up our beliefs. Now, this is how we rationalize as humans. But the key question, again, is whether this belief is going to strengthen you or weaken you. Is this belief going to make your life easier or more difficult? And this is what we want to take into consideration when examining our subconscious beliefs. If we have beliefs that are holding us back, if we have beliefs that are disempowering us, those are the ones that we want to begin to change by collecting references for a more powerful, a more strengthening, and supportive belief. Because the other thing is too, where do we get the references that uphold our beliefs? Some of the time it comes from personal experience. Some of the time it comes from something someone else told us, information we got from somewhere else. Sometimes it comes from the media, and sometimes we develop references simply from our imagination. We imagine things, and then they become the references that uphold ideas that make them into beliefs. We feel certain about something because we imagined it enough. Now, the emotional intensity that we have surrounding each reference is what makes it strong. So if we have a ton of emotional intensity around one reference, that reference is going to be really strong, and in upholding an idea, it's going to make that belief really strong. So the downside to this is that we can develop limiting beliefs, beliefs that hold us back, beliefs that don't serve us based on things that aren't even real, that aren't even true. And once they become our belief, we no longer question them. And this starts to be the background tape that plays in our mind that influences everything we do in our lives. But on the bright side, we can use this for the positive. Just as much as this can negatively impact us, once we learn how to do this intentionally, we can create positive references for ourselves that strengthen more uplifting beliefs that make our lives so much easier. With enough emotional intensity and repetition, our nervous system will experience something as real, even if it hasn't occurred yet. So this is where people start talking about the power of visualization. If you can visualize yourself and imagine yourself achieving something, if you can imagine something positive happening to yourself with enough emotional intensity, like if you can imagine it to a point where you start to feel positive emotions about it, this is some of the best references that you can give to yourself to begin to believe in whatever it is that you want to do or accomplish. And I do believe that this takes practice. Like, it's not something you can just do once. I think it's something that we need to incorporate into our everyday lives, especially in relation to something that you're actively trying to accomplish, especially if it's something you've never done before or that no one's ever done before, especially. Like, I'm sure you've heard of the story of the 4-minute mile. For the longest time, people believed you could not run a mile faster than 4 minutes. But then once the first person actually broke that record, a ton of other people started doing it too. But it's these limiting beliefs that we have. If you believe something to be true, you're going to act in alignment with that belief. So by imagining outcomes that we want, by imagining us accomplishing things that we want to accomplish, this is helping us. This is creating basically a path for us to follow. Because again, if we don't actually believe it, if we don't have references that we're going to be able to follow through or accomplish what we want to accomplish, we're not going to follow through. So all of our personal breakthroughs and lasting change begin with changing our beliefs. It's really difficult to make a change without changing your beliefs first, because you might have the willpower to take action for a while, but if your beliefs don't actually match what you're trying to do, you're going to default to what your subconscious beliefs are. So again, this is why it's so important for us to take the time to analyze and think critically about our subconscious beliefs, because it's going to shape what we actually do. So in just a bit, we're going to get into an exercise that's going to help you identify what your subconscious beliefs are, both positive and limiting. And then we're going to go through an exercise to change and transform your limiting beliefs into positive, uplifting, and supportive beliefs. But first, I just want to make a note about a point that I thought that was really important from this chapter, and it's about social proof. So sometimes we use social proof to determine whether something is true or not. We use social proof to strengthen our beliefs. That social proof becomes a reference. Now, all social proof means is that society agrees with it, that a bunch of other people agree with it, or even a group of people agree with it. And so often we doubt the positive beliefs that we want to have about ourselves or that we want to have about our lives because we're not seeing social proof that these things are true. Like, we're not seeing other people agree with us. We're not seeing other people give us positive feedback or positive reinforcement. And sometimes you might even see the opposite. You might have people who are criticizing you. You might have people who are judging you or bringing you down. And because of this, you don't believe in the positive things about yourself. Because of this, you actually start developing beliefs about yourself that are negative, because that's the social proof. That's the feedback you're getting. And I wanted to highlight this point from the chapter because social proof is not always accurate. As a matter of fact, it's irrelevant most of the time, especially when it comes to people's opinions about another person. How many stories have you heard about people who have accomplished extraordinary things, but who were told that they were never going to amount to anything, who were told that they weren't smart enough, they weren't strong enough, they weren't capable or able enough. They heard this from everywhere. People throwing hate at them for oftentimes no reason. But even if they did have a reason, if these people who accomplished such great things listened and started to believe the feedback they were getting from others, they would have never accomplished what they did. So this just goes to show that looking to other people as a reference for what's true or not can hold you back. So you have to learn to be your own reference. You have to learn to be your own strongest compass, especially if you have a goal or a vision or a dream, something that you want to accomplish or some way that you want to change that other people aren't supporting you in. You have to look for the evidence in yourself. You have to create these references for yourself, and that goes back to creating those visualizations. That goes back to imagining what it'll be like once you accomplish it. And that can help us develop certainty within ourselves, and really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So the biggest point of this chapter is that we get to choose what beliefs we want to have. We might not have always chosen, but now that we know how to identify our limiting beliefs, we can choose to have more supportive and uplifting beliefs that will help us throughout our lives. So that being said, let's get into the exercise to actually start to make these changes. So now is the time to get out your pen and paper, your phone, whatever it is that you use to take notes. So the first part of this exercise is to brainstorm all the beliefs that you have, that you could possibly think of. Now this is really broad, so I would say for now, just start with things that are most relevant to you at the moment. So brainstorm all the beliefs that you have about yourself. You can start by finishing the sentence, I am. What comes up for you when you say that? I am what? Whether those things are positive or negative, that's telling you what your subconscious beliefs about yourself are, both positive and limiting. Other areas that it might be really important to explore what your subconscious beliefs are around are other people. So what do you generally believe about people? What about money? What are your beliefs about money? What about health? What about your health? What about your body? What about love? What about relationships? How do you feel about these big areas of life? Then brainstorm all the beliefs that you have about 1 to 3 things that mean a lot to you. So either 3 things that you're trying to change, 3 things that you're trying to accomplish, or even 3 things that you're unhappy with in your life. What are all the beliefs that you have surrounding these areas? Write down everything that comes to mind. That's the first step. So pause and take time to do that now. Okay, so now that you've written down all the beliefs you have about all these subjects, now that you've written down all the feelings that you have, and if you were filtering yourself, go back and do it unfiltered. Just write down everything that comes to mind when you think about these subjects, because this will help you identify your limiting beliefs. So now that you've written everything out, all of your beliefs, all of your feelings about these subjects, circle the most empowering beliefs that you can find. Then ask yourself, how do these beliefs serve you? How do they strengthen your life? Once you identify these positive beliefs, you can utilize them more, and you can utilize them more consciously. So let's say you found a belief that you're resilient and you can get through anything, but you never really consciously thought that about yourself. Now you can start bringing it up more. Consciously think it every day, and that will help to give you a boost. Whatever the positive beliefs that you have about yourself or these other subjects, think them consciously now, because that will give you a boost. That will serve as an energizer in your life. Now, one of the most important parts, we're going to look at the negative or limiting belief. This is the most important part to me, because this is where we can really hold ourselves back. We put ourselves in this cage of limiting beliefs, and we don't know how to get out of it. So how do we get out of it? We have to change them. And I've been reading this book for 2 years now, and I still have a ton. So, I hope it doesn't take everybody else as long as it's taking me. But, this stuff does require practice. It doesn't necessarily just happen overnight. So it's good that we're starting now. Okay, so now looking at your limiting beliefs, circle all of the limiting beliefs. Circle the most disempowering beliefs that you wrote down. Now ask yourself the following questions about each of these beliefs. 1. How is this belief ridiculous or absurd? 2. Was the person I learned this belief from worth modeling or worth being like in this area? 3. What will it ultimately cost me emotionally if I don't let go of this belief? 4. What will it ultimately cost my relationships if I don't let go of this belief? 5. What will it ultimately cost me physically if I don't let go of this belief? 6. What will it ultimately cost me financially if I don't let go of this belief? And finally, what will it cost my family or those that I care about if I don't let go of this belief? If you've taken the time to really think about this and really answer these questions, hopefully these beliefs have been significantly weakened for you. Now what we're going to do is replace these limiting beliefs with positive beliefs. So now write down or take note of what you want your new, more supportive and uplifting positive belief to be. What is the antithesis of this old limiting belief? For example, and taking this example from the book, if you had an old belief that said, I can never succeed because I'm a woman, your new empowering belief might be, because I'm a woman, I have access to resources that no man could ever dream of. So, old limiting belief that'll hold you back, new empowering belief that will inspire you and push you forward. And so your new belief doesn't have to be the extreme opposite of your old belief, but it just has to be a belief that doesn't harm you anymore. So for example, if you had a belief that people were generally bad and generally, would screw you over, and you just didn't think very fondly of people, you don't have to do a 180 and think, oh, people are wonderful, people are good. If you're gonna have a hard time actually believing that, it's not gonna serve you. So what you can do is think, people are just doing the best that they can. That might be an easier thought, that's easier to reach for than people are wonderful and amazing. But consciously choosing to think, people are just doing the best that they can versus people are horrible will be less damaging to you and your life, because it will shape the decisions that you make, it'll shape your behaviors, it'll shape how you interact with people. And so that's an example of how you don't have to, go to the opposite extreme with a belief, but you just have to choose one that doesn't limit you in your life, that doesn't hold you back. So now write down empowering positive beliefs to replace all your limiting beliefs. And to help you create these new beliefs, you might want to ask yourself, what do I need to believe in order to make this happen? What do I need to believe in order to live this kind of life or behave in this kind of way? Whatever belief will help you in each area of your life, that's the belief that you need to adopt. That's the belief that you need to practice and intentionally think each day. So I hope that that exercise was helpful to you. I hope that you had some revelations and were able to make some breakthrough or change. I know that I certainly did the first time that I read that chapter and did that exercise, and every time I read it, even reading it again today, I was like, oh my god, I'm not doing any of this intentionally, and I really need to, and that's what's holding me back. So I hope that it did the same for you. So remember, nothing in our lives has one absolute meaning. We decide the meanings that we want to attach to things, and those meanings can either hold us back or they can support us in living the lives that we want to live and being the people that we want to be. So I hope that you continue to consciously choose what beliefs you allow yourself to hold in your mind, and practice every day getting rid of limiting beliefs that don't serve you and strengthening beliefs that support you. If you like this video, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching. I hope that you will use this information to make positive changes in your life. Until next time, much love.